At my daughter's graduation, she said, "I wish to thank my stepdad who was to me the best gift mom gave me, because he was always there for me when I needed him. As for the man who paid my bills, he was just doing his job as a dad." What happened next was rather unbelievable. I will tell you everything. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Humphrey Speed from Alabama. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. I used to tell myself that love was measured in what you gave without expecting anything back. That if you were lucky enough to be someone's father, you showed up, even if no one saw it. Especially then. I didn't do bedtime stories for applause. I didn't pay for braces, dance lessons, or emergency room visits so I could collect some imaginary award at the end. I did it because she was mine, my daughter. And in the moments I felt most alone, she was the reason I kept going. After the divorce, I didn't fight for full custody because I thought it would destroy her to see two people she loved at war. Instead, I agreed to weekends and holidays and summer breaks. I stayed close, moved only 15 minutes from her school. I never missed a parent-teacher night, even when I had to stand awkwardly next to my ex-wife and her new husband. I swallowed a lot of pride in those years. I watched another man tie her shoes and pack her lunches. And still, I paid for everything: school fees, health care, clothes, even the roof over her head. Quietly, without complaint. I didn't want to be a weekend dad, so I overcompensated where I could. Every birthday, I went all out, not with gifts, but with presents. I planned scavenger hunts, built cardboard castles, once rented a projector and turned the backyard into a movie theater. I watched her laugh and glow and call me her number one. I clung to those memories like oxygen. But somewhere along the way, her eyes started to drift toward someone else. Her bonus dad. And I became less of a hero, more of a habit. When she told me about her graduation speech, she didn't share the details. Just said, "It's gonna be sweet, Dad. You'll love it." I believed her. God help me, I really did. I even booked a photographer, wore the suit she liked on me, the one she said made me look like a cool senator. I sat in that auditorium, camera in hand, heart pounding like I was the one graduating. She walked across that stage glowing like she belonged to the world. And then, she stepped up to the mic. Her voice was steady, confident. Too confident. "I want to thank my mom for her unwavering love," she said, pausing for polite applause. "And I want to thank my stepdad, who was to me the best gift mom ever gave, because he was always there for me when I needed him." I blinked. That's nice, I thought. Okay. I waited for my name next. "As for the man who paid my bills," she said, smiling, "he was just doing his job as a dad. Just an ATM. Laughter. Real laughter. Applause. Even a few cheers." I didn't clap. I couldn't move. My stomach twisted so tight I thought I might get sick. I stared at her, searching for some flicker of regret, some hesitation in her eyes. But she beamed. Proud. Like she'd dropped the mic on her final punchline. The photographer leaned over to ask if I wanted a picture. I shook my head. I waited until the last name was called, then stood quietly and left through the side doors. No congratulations. No hugs. No photos. Just silence. I walked down the steps and across the parking lot like a man sleepwalking through traffic. My hands shook as I unlocked the car. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, and let the air suffocate me. For years I had wondered if I mattered. That night, she answered me. I drove home in the dark, every streetlight a spotlight on my stupidity. I had been funding her life while she rehearsed a joke that would gut me in front of a crowd. And I knew then, I couldn't keep doing this. I wouldn't. Something in me hardened. The kind of resolve that doesn't come from anger, but from clarity. That night, I sat down at my desk and opened every account I had linked to her. Credit cards, student housing payments, cell phone plan, the car insurance I paid in full every 6 months. One by one, I ended them. I wrote a short note to the bank, removed her as an authorized user, then closed the joint account I'd opened to help her build credit. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I just breathed. For the first time in a long time, I felt the edges of my own life returning to me. Not as her father, not as someone's ex-husband, not as a funding source, but as a man who had reached his limit. Tomorrow, she would wake up to a world she built without me. Let her stepdad help her now. Let him carry the weight. I had done more than my share. And for the first time in years, I chose myself. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the image of her on stage replaying in slow motion over and over again. The way her voice lilted with that smug confidence, the laughter from the crowd, the applause that followed like a standing ovation for Betrayal. It wasn't just what she said, it was the way she said it. Like I had never been more than a transaction. Like the late-night hospital runs, the canceled vacations to cover her tuition, the second job I took during her junior year to help with SAT prep classes. None of it mattered. I was just the ATM, the man behind the curtain who pulled the levers and made her life easier while another man got to stand in the spotlight. By morning, I was still in the same clothes from the night before. I hadn't eaten. My coffee machine hissed and sputtered, but I left the cup untouched. Something had broken open in me that I couldn't glue back together. For years I'd taken little jabs, rolled my eyes at small slights, rationalized her growing distance. Teenagers, I told myself. She's trying to find herself. But this wasn't teenage rebellion. This was a woman, standing before a crowd, choosing to humiliate her father in exchange for applause. The first call came around 9:30 a.m. I didn't answer. The second came at 9:45. By 10, my phone was lighting up like a pinball machine, texts, missed calls, notifications from her mom. Then came the voicemail. "Dad, my cards aren't working." "What's going on?" she said, her voice half concerned, half irritated. "I'm at the salon and I literally had to walk out because the card declined. I'm so embarrassed. Can you fix this? Call me." I listened to that message 3 times. Not a trace of remorse. No apology. Not even a question about how I was doing. Just pure inconvenience. Embarrassment. She couldn't fathom a world where I had stopped serving her needs without first getting her permission. At 11:12 a.m., she called again. This time I picked up. "What the hell, Dad?" she snapped before I could even say hello. "My rent is due today. My phone bill just got shut off. Why would you cancel everything without warning me?" I took a breath, steadying myself. "Because I'm done," I said. "Done?" she echoed, like I'd said something in another language. "I'm done being treated like I don't matter. Like my only value is the money I send. You stood on a stage and reduced me to a punchline. You thanked your stepdad for being there for you, and maybe he was. I'm not taking that away. But I was there too, and I gave everything I had. And you erased me." "Oh my God, it was a joke," she said, her voice rising. Everyone laughed. "It wasn't that deep." "It was to me," I said, my voice cold but calm. "It was very deep." There was a long pause on the other end. Then anger. "So you're punishing me now? What? You think cutting me off makes you the bigger person?" "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm freeing myself. You made your choice on that stage. So did I." She cursed under her breath. "This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child." "No," I said. "I'm finally acting like a man who knows his worth." She hung up. I sat there staring at the wall, the silence afterwards louder than her words had been. I expected to feel guilt, regret, maybe even shame, but all I felt was stillness. Like I had finally stepped off a treadmill I'd been sprinting on for 2 decades. I had spent years financing her life because I thought that was love. I thought if I gave enough, she'd see me. But I'd been invisible all along. Around noon, my ex-wife called. I let it ring out. Then came the text. "Whatever this is between you two, don't make her suffer for it. She's just a kid." She wasn't a kid. Not anymore. And I wasn't the same man I had been yesterday either. Later that day, I took a walk through the neighborhood, something I hadn't done in years without a destination. I passed a father pushing his toddler in a stroller. The little girl was laughing, kicking her feet, pointing at birds. He looked exhausted but content. I nodded at him, and he nodded back. There was a time when that was me, toting her around, marveling at every word she learned, every step she took. I loved being her dad. I still do. But love without respect? That's not love. That's servitude. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed and opened the last voicemail she left. Her voice was shaky this time. Not angry, panicked. Dad, I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't think you'd take it so personally. Please don't cut me off. I don't know what to do. I didn't call her back. Some lessons have to come with silence. By the next morning, it was like I had set off a quiet earthquake. Nothing dramatic, no screaming in the streets, but the aftershocks were everywhere. I'd woken up to 17 missed calls and 3 voicemails, all from her. Her voice was unraveling in each one. The first sounded indignant, the second desperate, and the third just tired. And yet, not once did I hear the words I was hoping for. I understand. Or even, I see how that hurt you. It was always framed around what was happening to her. Her rent, her phone, her comfort. I didn't matter in any version of her story. Only my utility did. Only the loss of convenience. I went down to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat at the table without turning on the lights. For years, I used to sit in that same spot while planning out tuition payments, negotiating with landlords on her behalf, researching financial aid options she never had to apply for because I took care of it. I thought of the time I took a payday loan just to cover her final semester's books when my hours got cut. She never knew. She didn't need to. That was my job, or so I believed. But now, I looked at all those choices with a strange detachment. Not anger, exactly. Just a haunting question. Was I really helping her grow, or just helping her stay blind? Around noon, the first message came from my ex-wife. You're being cruel. She's just overwhelmed. Don't make this permanent. I didn't reply. I knew the pattern too well, guilt disguised as negotiation. Every time I tried to hold a boundary in the past, it was met with the same counterattack. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You're not seeing the whole picture. But I saw it now. I saw it clearly. I'd raised a daughter who believed my presence was her right, but my feelings were optional. I finally returned one call that afternoon. Not hers, not my ex-wife's. It was to Marcia, the property manager for the apartment I'd been covering for the past 2 years. I explained the situation plainly. She won't be needing my assistance going forward. I suggest she set up her own direct deposit with you. I've already removed my information from the payment portal. Marcia hesitated, maybe sensing the weight behind my voice. I'm sorry, Mr. Pearson, she said gently. She always spoke highly of you. I almost laughed. Yeah, I said. Until she had a microphone. Later that day, I sat on the porch, nursing a drink and watching the clouds roll in like they were dragging the sky behind them. My neighbor, Patrick, came over. He'd seen me leave early from the graduation and hadn't asked questions then. But now, his curiosity got the better of him. You okay, man? He asked, lowering himself into the other chair beside me. I cut her off, I said without ceremony. All of it. Money, support, everything. He let out a low whistle. That why I saw her stomping up to her mom's house earlier. She looked like a thunderstorm. I nodded. She called me an ATM. On stage. In her graduation speech. Said her stepdad was the best gift her mom ever gave her. Said I just did my job. Paid bills. Patrick winced. Damn. Yeah. Damn. I repeated. He sat in silence for a while, then said, You know, it's wild. I watched you for years, man. Picking her up, dropping her off, covering for that car wreck she got in last year. And I always thought, that guy's got patience of a saint. But saints still bleed, huh? I turned to him, surprised by the sharpness of that sentence. Yeah, I said quietly. They do. Patrick leaned back. I get it. My cousin went through something similar. His son cut him off emotionally for years, then tried to reconnect when he needed help with a mortgage. Love with conditions isn't love, bro. It's a contract. And sounds like yours expired. We sat in silence again, watching 2 squirrels fight over a piece of bread someone had dropped on the sidewalk. It felt symbolic somehow. The evening brought a different kind of tension. Not loud, not even visible, but I felt it. A shift, a ripple in the roles we'd all accepted. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was redefining. I got a text from my daughter around 7:45 p.m. It was short. I'm staying with mom. I don't need you. Don't contact me again. There it was. The line drawn. The declaration of independence wrapped in a tantrum. I stared at it for a while, then deleted the thread. I didn't save the messages. I didn't screen grab them for evidence. I didn't need to. I had already lived the proof. I didn't cry that night. I thought I would. I thought I'd collapse under the weight of what just happened. But I didn't. I showered, cooked myself dinner, and watched a movie. Something with no daughters. No fathers. Just explosions and bad dialogue. I needed something simple, something that didn't remind me of who I used to be. Because that man, the ATM, he was gone. And in his place, a man was finally figuring out what it meant to be free. The voicemail she left the next morning was different. There was no yelling. No righteous anger. It was quiet, almost rehearsed. I played it 3 times just to be sure I wasn't imagining the shift in her tone. Dad, I want to talk. Just talk, okay? I think things got out of hand. I didn't mean to hurt you like that. Maybe we can meet for coffee or something. I sat with that message for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because for the first time in years, I realized I had a choice. I didn't owe her a response, not right away, and certainly not on her timeline. But a small part of me, maybe the part that still remembered holding her hand on the first day of kindergarten, whispered, "Go. Hear her out." So I texted back. One word. Okay. We met the following afternoon at the coffee shop by her old high school. She chose it. Probably on purpose, trying to rewind the clock, maybe. I got there early and picked the booth by the window. She arrived 5 minutes late, dressed in a blazer that looked like it was borrowed, hair pulled tight like she was trying to appear older, more serious. But her eyes, they still carried that same flicker of entitlement I'd seen in our last call. "Thanks for coming," she said as she sat down. She didn't reach for a hug. I nodded. "You said you wanted to talk." She fidgeted with her straw wrapper. "Look, I know what I said at graduation came out wrong." "It didn't come out wrong," I said. "It came out exactly the way you meant it." She flinched at that, but didn't argue. "I didn't mean to reduce everything you did to just money," she said. "It was a joke. People laughed. That's all it was supposed to be." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You think my entire life of sacrifice is a punchline." "No," she said quickly. "That's not fair. You weren't around like Jason was. He helped with my essays. He drove me to every game. I paid for the gas he used to get there," I said. "I paid for your uniforms, your school trips, your therapy when you were too anxious to get out of bed. I was there, just not in ways you ever looked for." Her jaw tightened. "Why are you trying to make me feel guilty?" "I'm not," I said. "I'm trying to make you see me. Maybe for the first time in years." She looked away then, out the window, blinking faster than normal. I could see it, the internal battle. Pride versus acknowledgement. And I could see she wasn't ready to lose that war. "I guess I just thought you'd always be there," she said finally. "No matter what I said. No matter what I did." "That's the thing," I said. "I always was. And you treated that like a flaw instead of a gift." She crossed her arms, leaned back. "So what now? You're just going to cut me out forever?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't a child anymore. She was a grown woman who'd made a public decision and now didn't like the private consequence. "I'm not cutting you out," I said. "I'm stepping back. There's a difference." Her voice turned cold. "That sounds like the same thing." "It's not," I said. "Cutting you out would mean I don't love you. That I wish you harm. That's not true. I love you. But love doesn't mean I let you use me. Love doesn't mean I get humiliated while you smile in front of a crowd." The air between us thickened. Around us, life continued. Coffee machines hissed. People laughed. The world moved on. But we were stuck in that booth, held in place by years of unspoken things. "I didn't know it would hit you like that," she said quietly. "That's the thing," I replied. "You never stopped to consider how anything would hit me. You only saw what I gave, not what it cost." She stared at me, then shook her head. "So what? You want me to beg? To cry? To tell you I messed up and hope that fixes it?" "No," I said. "I want you to grow up. I want you to understand that words have weight, and so do choices. You chose to erase me in front of the people who mattered most to you. So now I'm choosing to take my space." She didn't say anything after that. She just sat there, her hands in her lap, trying to keep her face from cracking. I didn't push her. I didn't reach across the table. I just stood up. "I hope you figure it out," I said. "Because I won't be here the next time you need someone to clean up the mess." I walked out of that coffee shop into the afternoon light. I didn't look back. Not once. For the first time in decades, I wasn't reacting. I was living on my own terms. And as painful as it was, it felt right. like finally stepping out of a shadow I didn't realize I'd been living under. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. And sometimes, that's the only closure you'll ever get. Word got around fast. Maybe it was her mother. Maybe it was one of the cousins who attended the graduation and didn't like how quickly I vanished after the ceremony. Or maybe it was just my daughter herself, spreading the story with her own spin. Either way, by the end of that week, I'd received 4 unsolicited messages and 2 surprise visits. The first message came from my older sister, Joan, who had always made it her business to manage everyone else's business. It read, "Family isn't something you walk away from just because your feelings are hurt." The second came from my ex-wife's brother, of all people, asking if I could let bygones be bygones for the sake of peace. They all had opinions. None of them asked what really happened. None of them cared to hear the speech. They just saw a father withholding, a daughter struggling, and jumped to the most convenient story. I was bitter, petty, overreacting. When I didn't respond, the conversation spilled offline. Joan showed up at my house unannounced that Saturday, holding a Tupperware of lemon squares like it was a peace offering from a tribe that had already declared war. I opened the door, sighed, and let her in. Not because I wanted to, but because I was too tired to argue at the threshold. She settled in on my couch like she owned it, patting the cushion beside her. "You know," she said, "you used to be the most generous one in this family." I sat across from her. Still am. Just not with people who treat me like a wallet. She rolled her eyes, like I'd said something childish. "Come on, Dawn. She's 22. You've been taking care of her whole life. You really think cutting her off cold turkey is the answer?" "I think cutting off someone who humiliated me in public is overdue," I said. "And she's not a child. She's a college graduate. An adult who needs to learn that actions come with consequences." "She's hurt," Jones said. "You know that, right? She's been crying to your mother, saying she didn't mean it, that she didn't think it would land the way it did." I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "She didn't think at all, Joan. That's the problem. She didn't think when she wrote it. She didn't think when she said it. She didn't think when she doubled down on the phone. And now that she's cut off, suddenly everyone expects me to be the adult again." "Well, you are the adult," Joan said, her tone sharper. "And adults don't abandon their kids." I stood up then, not in anger, just clarity. Adults also don't allow themselves to be publicly disrespected by the people they've given everything to. I didn't walk away out of pettiness. I walked away because I had nothing left to give. Joan stared at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle that kept changing shape. Finally, she stood too, picked up her container of lemon squares, and sighed. "I hope you know this isn't just going to go away." "Neither is what she said," I replied. When she left, I locked the door behind her, not because I felt threatened, but because I needed to remind myself that I could, that I was allowed to protect my peace. That night, I ignored 3 more texts and turned off my phone. I poured myself a drink and turned on the news, but I couldn't focus. The words on the screen blurred, just noise behind the memory of my daughter's voice saying ATM like it was clever. On Sunday, Marcus, my tenant in the back apartment, knocked on the door. He'd been renting from me for 3 years. Quiet guy, mid-30s, kept to himself. But we'd shared a few beers on the porch over the years, and I liked his no-nonsense way of seeing things. "Mind if I ask something personal?" he said after I offered him a seat. "Shoot. I heard your daughter's speech. Someone posted it on Facebook." I froze. Of course they did. He held up a hand. "I'm not judging. Just, I want to say something, if that's okay." I nodded. He leaned forward. "I never knew my dad. But if I had one who paid my way, who showed up, who gave a damn, I would have fought anyone who tried to minimize him like that. What she did, that wasn't a joke. That was erasure." Something in me cracked open then. Not pain, not pride, just recognition. The kind that comes when someone finally says the thing you've been afraid to say out loud. "Thanks, Marcus," I said quietly. "That means more than you know." He stood, patted my shoulder, and said, "You're not wrong for drawing a line. People who've never been erased don't understand what it costs to reclaim yourself." After he left, I sat there for a long time. Not crying, not raging, just still. The kind of stillness that only comes after everyone's opinions have been flung at you like bricks, and you realize none of them built you, so none of them can break you either. That week, I didn't speak to my daughter. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't send money. I just lived. I paid my bills, went to work, read a novel, reclaimed my time. And every day that passed, the noise got quieter. The guilt faded, and I stood taller. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them judge. None of them had to watch their child turn them into a footnote. It had been 3 weeks, 23 days since I pulled the plug on everything. Her credit line, the rent account, the insurance, the favor factory I'd been running for over 2 decades. And every day that passed, I expected the guilt to creep back in. I braced for it like an old injury in the rain, something dull and familiar. But instead of guilt, I felt something else. Something harder to name. Not quite peace. Not quite pride. But a strange, quiet acceptance. Like I had finally exhaled after holding my breath for years without knowing it. I kept myself busy in the beginning. Cleaned the gutters. Fixed a squeaky hinge on the backyard gate that had annoyed me for years. I even painted the spare room. Something I always meant to do, but never had time for because I was too busy fixing other people's messes. It was the first time in a long time that my life felt like it actually belonged to me. And I realized something about freedom. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it's as simple as walking through your house and not feeling like a stranger in it. My daughter hadn't reached out since our meeting at the coffee shop. She'd gone silent, and for once, I didn't chase it. I didn't check her social media. I didn't call her mother for updates. I let the silence stretch between us like a bridge that neither of us wanted to repair just yet. Maybe ever. And I had to be okay with that. Because reaching for her again would mean pretending nothing happened. Pretending I wasn't gutted in front of a crowd. Pretending I hadn't been reduced to a walking wallet with no feelings. One afternoon, I found an old box in the attic. Photos, report cards, scribbled, "I love you, Daddy" drawings. I sat there for hours, surrounded by the echoes of a little girl who used to climb into my lap and call me her hero. There was one photo that broke me. The two of us on her 8th birthday, frosting on both our faces, her arms wrapped around my neck like she never wanted to let go. I held it in my hands, my chest tightening with the memory of how small her world used to be and how big I was in it. Somewhere along the way, I shrank. Or maybe she just outgrew me. Or maybe she never saw me fully in the first place. I don't know. And maybe that's the most painful part, not knowing where exactly it went wrong, just knowing that it did. A week later, I ran into Denise, an old friend from my church days, in the frozen foods aisle. She gave me a look, half sympathy, half curiosity. "I heard about the graduation," she said gently, "and what your daughter said. I just want you to know, people noticed. You didn't deserve that." I didn't know how to respond. So I nodded and said, "Thank you." And I meant it. That night, I wrote a letter I never intended to send. I didn't know if it was for her or for me. Maybe both. "Dear Maya, you used to call me your protector, your rock. And I carried that title like it was sacred. I gave you everything I had, even when it meant I went without. I did it because I loved you, not for recognition, but because that's what love is, unseen sacrifice. But love isn't supposed to cost someone their dignity. When you called me an ATM, you didn't just hurt my pride. You erased me. Years of late nights, early mornings, missed holidays, and financial strain. All flattened into a punchline. I'm not writing this to guilt you. I'm writing this to say, I see myself now. I matter, even if you couldn't see it. I love you. I probably always will. But I won't be a ghost in your life, only appearing when it's time to pay. If one day you want to talk, not to demand, not to defend, but to understand, I'll listen. But until then, I'm choosing myself." Dad, I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and walked away. 2 days later, I got an email. No subject line. Just one sentence. "I didn't realize how much I hurt you until I felt what it was like to be without you." I didn't reply, not because I didn't care, but because I finally knew I didn't have to answer just because someone wanted me to. In the weeks that followed, life began to find its rhythm again. I picked up a new book, took a weekend trip, smiled more, laughed once or twice at nothing at all. Not everything was better, but I was better, and that mattered more. I learned something in all of this. Love doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like walking away, not to punish, but to preserve what's left of you. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Because for the first time in a long time, I chose to be the hero in mine. If you've ever felt taken for granted by someone you sacrificed everything for, you're not alone. Sometimes the hardest part is choosing yourself after years of putting others first. If this story resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Your voice matters here. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real, emotional stories about family, betrayal, and finding your strength again. Let's talk about boundaries, healing, and what it really means to love yourself enough to walk away. See you soon in the next story.